Welcome everyone back to a Buckner Project video on financial literacy. Today we're gonna talk a little bit about government subsidies. This is just an overview. We're gonna get into the specifics next video. But what are they about? What are we doing with government subsidies? How does that affect my life? How does it affect your life? An overview. Let's think about it like a Big Mac. We're just gonna talk about how it gets to the plate. So what goes into a Big Mac? So we have farming. Right? You have to farm the land to make the lettuce, to make the dairy, to make the cheese. So you need cattle, right? You need cows. And that's one of our definition. Cattle is cows. So you need cattle and cows to make the meat. You need to grow wheat for the bread. You need space for cucumbers, and then you need space to store and pickle the cucumbers for the pickles. And you need tons more stuff for just a special sauce. So if we look at what a government subsidy is a subsidy basically is money, a little bit of money that the government is paying for all the things we have on the screen right there. So they're cheaper when you buy them. So oil. So we need to drive to get the cows, to get the ingredients all the way to the packaging plants. So that takes gasoline, and gasoline is not particularly cheap. So what the government does is it pays a premium to make gasoline cheaper for American buyers. So when in reality it could be like $5-6 a gallon, it's for like $2.50 right now, which isn't that bad compared to what it could be. And then the farming is subsidized. The people who work in the farming business, the people are offset because you don't get a lot of money making farming. So they give them, some checks to make them keep making food for the population. And then the land is subsidized. The government buys land, or did buy land, in the olden times before you and I were born, way before you and I were born. And that land was subsidized and given to people. So all of these things are aided by the government. Now, what would be the true price of a Big Mac? Now, if we didn't have these subsidies, you would probably pay around $21 for like a Big Mac. When in reality, I think the market price is like $4.50 or like $5. So you're paying 400% more if you don't have these subsidies. So that just shows you, like, on a very small scale, like how big of a difference these make. And so you can see the economic costs versus the regular. So let's get into some good or bad. So some pros to this issue is when you buy it, it's much cheaper than what you would pay automatically. Because if you had to pay, this is pretty basic economic principle, supply and demand. If you had to pay more, you'd probably buy it less. If gas was $6, $7, I probably would be using ride shares. I'd be taking the Metro, I'd be taking the Dart, If it's more expensive, people use it less. So this brings me into the next point, is that this is not good for the environment. The economic impact of anything is reflected in the social and cultural impact of everything. So I think that money tends to influence everything in our lives. And I think this is especially true with the environment. So, this global warming thing, global weirding, climate change, whatever you want to call it, is going on. We saw it in the snow. We see it every day really with these wacky temperatures. So if we're not paying the true price, people feel free to make more of it if we're going to be buying more. So if I'm going to buy 4 more Big Macs because that's the price of what one Big Mac should cost, then they're going to need 4 times more than land, 4 times more oil. So they're going to be cutting down 4 times more trees to farm that land than, let's say, the Amazon, where clear cutting is a huge issue, putting more oil, more methane, more CO2 into the air, which is greenhouse gases, which are not good. So you're getting a lot of bad things happening to the environment because people are spending more, and more things need to be produced. So, there are good and bad to having subsidies, but subsidies, they're not great for the environment. To the extent you need to have the free market regulate these things so the environment is saved. And this is one of the main issues. Our climate is bad. People feel entitled to cut down more stuff to make room for more things. Now, let's just get into some definitions before we move on to the next video. So subsidy, the thing we talked about all video. Subsidy, it's something that the government spends to help or aid a production of good. Benefit just means it's good. Let's say I benefited from receiving that $50 check. I benefited. It was good for me. And the cows, we talked about this. Now, something you can do at home. We go back to here. I want you guys to find something that you buy on a weekly basis. So it can be food that you really like, a candy that you really like, toy that you maybe play with that you really like. And then I want you guys to make a list of 4 things that could be subsidized by the government. So if it's plastic, say the oil that went into making, or the transportation that it went into doing it. So just make a list of 4 things, and so you can kind of get a better concept. It clicks more for you at home about what subsidies essentially are. That's all for today. Thank you guys so much for supporting the Buckner Project Financial Literacy.